What's up? What's up, bro? Letting go, man. Letting go, letting go, letting go. Something that I've struggled with. Um, I know you have struggled with from our conversations, and probably the
Facts.
majority of the population on planet Earth has encountered a process where they have to learn how to let go. Um, yeah, so it's a pretty deep topic, man. What do you think about it so far?
I think letting go is one of the hardest things nobody wants to talk about, right? Because
Yeah,
everybody wants to pretend that they're okay.
yeah,
And pretending you're okay, you only go through the pain by yourself because you're pretending. So even the people who are coming to try and help you, you're like, oh God, who needs help? Why would I be needing help? And it's because you're
yeah,
trying to let go. And I think that even when you do let go, people look at letting go as a one time action. They don't look at it as a process. You know,
hmm
I think it's an everyday process depending on how deep the connection was. Right?
yeah.
What about you? Why do you think it's so hard for people to let go?
Man, I'm gonna try to get like thinking from personal experience. I believe that it's hard because I like the permanence of what I have. I want what encounters me. I want forever. you know, what's mine is mine. So when change happens, it kind of it definitely stuns me. I think it stuns. I mean, it really stuns everyone, but I think that's what it is. I think people crave consistency. They want something, and once they have it, it's almost like they put their stamp on it and they can't go anywhere. They don't want a deadline to it. They don't want to acknowledge the fact that some things are around for. My mom used to give me a lesson. I'll go to that. She used to say, some people are around for a reason, and some people are around for a season. And yeah, I try to live my life off of that. It's hard because sometimes you forget the lessons that you learned, especially when you're experiencing it. Um, but that couldn't be any further from the truth, man.
I think you
Some
said it
things aren't
too.
meant to last.
I think you said it too when you said people want the consistency,
Yep.
right? I think it's because whenever you're in that situation, whatever situation you have, you get the
Okay.
consistency without needing to work for it,
Mm, okay. Mm,
right? Because it's just there. And
okay.
that's the complacency or the joy, the fun of having whatever it is because it's consistent every day, but you don't have
Yeah.
to work for it. And so once it changes, you either have to work to get it to stay the same,
hmm
or you have to come to the realization that it's time to let it go.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I
And I
think.
think, go
Go ahead.
ahead.
You got.
Oh, I just think that it's 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 hard looking yourself in the mirror and going, "This is happening. Like this is happening, whether I like it or not, whether I want it to or not. I either have to allow this to happen, or this has to happen for the betterment of my life. Whether that's moving somewhere new, right?
Yeah.
Having to let go of your hometown for the time being, or a relationship, or whatever it is, a job. Not everything we
Mhm.
want to let go because we've already done the work to get where we are. So
Yeah. That's good, man. I think you had mentioned that you feel like you have to let go for the betterment of yourself, right? Is that kind of why? Why do we have to? Why can't we just live? Why can't we just move on with change and then not let go of what isn't there anymore?
because we're strong, right? And so strong people can carry a lot of weight.
Mm,
However, I don't care how strong you are, every man, every woman has their limit, right?
right.
And that's me speaking as a powerlifter. Like I've visually seen guys squat 1,000 pounds, right?
Mm,
So in person. So I understand the human body is amazing. It's capable of taking on more pressure, more weight than most people would imagine. But it doesn't matter how light the problem is or how light the circumstance is. If you try and drag everything with you, it's going to get too heavy, right?
Okay.
It's kind of like the glass of water analogy, where if you take a glass of water and you hold it out in front of you, right? You just hold it there. Is the glass heavy? No, not initially. But the longer you continue to hold the glass, no matter how much water is in it, the glass is gonna start to feel heavy, right? It
Hmm.
might not be today, might not be tomorrow. And so we have to let those things go, because if you keep trying to drag this with you and that with you and that with you, at first, the first couple of things might not be that bad.
Right.
But you get to thing 3, thing 4, and all these things are growing, because in time things grow, right?
Yeah.
So just like children, right? Feeding a baby is not as hard as feeding a 13, 14-year old, because they don't require as much food, right?
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden you got this 13, 14-year old, and you've been dragging them along, right? And
Yeah.
it wasn't your responsibility. Now you have more than you can. You've bitten off more than you can chew, and it's gonna make life harder for you. So you have to learn how to let those things go for you, right?
Yeah.
So that, because if not, you're gonna be bitter. Why is like my life so hard? Why da 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 da? Because you keep dragging stuff that you ain't supposed to be dragging.
Hmm.
You know?
Well, that question that you brought up, when people, if people are even asking themselves that, of like, why is this going on, this and this and this, that sounds like an acknowledgement of. It sounds like you're acknowledging the fact that there is something going on, which also could mean that you don't even know. Like, other people could see that there's something going on with you, and then like people who know your life, like say me and you have been friends forever, right? And you could probably know something when something's up with me, and I don't even know, because every time you've had an interaction with me, you've gotten one type of experience. You know me. I talk to you about my life, you know, this and that. So if I start showing up different to you because you're an outside person, you're gonna be like, dude, you notice that you've been doing this different lately? You all right? What's going on with you? Or uh a matter of me not even that. I guess what I'm trying to say is I wouldn't notice, every single time. There are gonna be times where I'm going out, my doing my daily duties and thinking I'm chilling, but someone else is going to be able to acknowledge, like, yo, are you
You're a
okay?
little off.
You
Yeah.
know, what I mean? But then the only times that I have, and this is personal experience, the only times I have noticed are when I'm legit triggered, like that was like almost, I mean, an explosion, you know what I mean? And it's not a matter of me like lashing out or anything, but an explosion of kind of just me feeling an immense emotion all at once, and me realizing like, dang, man, that did affect me. You know what I mean? And, or it's a matter of like, wow, like that still hurts. That still
Yeah.
hurts. I thought it was done. It happened years ago, but
Yeah.
it still hurts me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I see you rubbing your neck, man. What are you thinking about? What are you thinking?
Uh uh so you were there for the for my last relationship. So you know a lot of the ups and downs, some of the behind the scenes.
Mhm.
Um and it do get to a point where you have to let go. Um and so for me, it was I had to come to the realization like, yo, it is time to let this go. And that's really, really hard to do.
Yeah.
Simply because you don't want to come to the realization of um it's time for something different. It's time to, kind of find who you are again, right? And I think that's another thing, is we can get lost in who we want to be and forget who we are, right? And so having to come to that realization of this may not be the best scenario for me, and then going from realizing that to actually the release of, okay, listen, this isn't good for me.
Yeah.
This is not the healthiest situation for me to be in. And then to actually rebuild, right? Because I don't care what nobody say. When you release, it hurt. Like It hurts. It's a very intense emotion. You think about um ways to put yourself down, whether that's calling yourself dumb, calling yourself inferior, or asking how could you, da 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 da, right?
It's uncomfortable for sure.
It's very uncomfortable. And so trying to pretend as though it's not only makes it worse, right? Oh no, 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 I'm good. Da, da, I'm good. I'm good. I ain't no, I'm good. No, you're not, right?
Yeah.
And that only makes it worse in the rebuilding. Because when you go to start rebuilding, it's kind of like it's like an art, right? And imagine instead of building a brick house brick by brick, you just start throwing stuff everywhere because you're upset and you're just slapping stuff together. When you get to the finished product, what do you think it's gonna look like? Like you slap stuff together, right? And so I think each part is its own. I think letting go is a process, but I think it's not talked about that you do got to come to the realization, you do got to release the problem, and then you have to rebuild through the pain
Yeah.
rather than pretending to be okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to do that though. It's easy to it's easy to look away from what makes you uncomfortable, you know? And I think
Yeah.
and we're talking from an experience. Uh, I mean, we're both men, so talking about it from that mindset of being men, well, the biggest things that get in our way is our ego. And we there's this common theme of what a man looks like, right? And when you're growing up, a man seems to look like a superhero, right? Man is supposed to be, and nothing can penetrate him. You know what I mean? Like
Uh-huh. Nothing
he's
bothers him.
cool. He's cool, calm and collected at all times. All
Under
times.
pressure,
He's
yep.
strong. He doesn't cry. Doesn't do this. Doesn't do that. Doesn't experience anything but strength, right? But then you grow and you start to realize, like, man, all these men that and I'm talking about real men that you've looked up to, all of them have something that is their kryptonite. All of them have something, whether you know it or not, or whether even they're admitting to talk about it, they do.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's, I wish, I mean, there is a fine line though, because how do you raise a kid, man, especially a man or a young man, to be a man, but then also, you know what I mean, also keep that aspect of him that is like, put your ego away, man. You know what I mean? And I think I kind of have an idea. I do believe that's the whole balance of a man needs a woman and they're supposed to be, together. And that's, there's certain things that a mother can teach and certain things that a father can teach. But I wish it wasn't I wish it wasn't put in such of a light of, oh, emotions are making you feminine because you're in tune with your emotions, you are being a baby, you're acting like a girl. You know what I mean? So
Right.
yeah, that's just a thought, bro.
It's
Let
not
let them ponder on.
yeah, it's not feminine to express emotion. But I think, like you said too, I think it do get lost
Hmm.
in change is uncomfortable. And so for a guy to say, yo, I feel uncomfortable about this, it's like, oh, you being a little no, he's not.
Yeah,
He's experiencing human emotion. He's being human. But like I said, I
yeah, he's
think it's
acknowledging it.
hard because you have to, in order for you to let go of anything, whether that be a job, whether that be a person, whatever, you have to come to the realization of looking yourself in the mirror and say, it's time to move on. And
Yeah.
that can be so hard because, like you said, you found consistency. Every day when you wake up, taking my example, every day when I wake up, I know the same person is there every day, right? Same, I don't have to think about it, they're going to be there, right? And now it's coming to the realization of, okay, what if you wake up and they not, right?
Mm,
Like, what do you do then? If
yeah.
you have a job, and it's time to let go of that job for a better job or for a job of your dreams that's paying less, whatever, whatever.
Right.
How do you imagine yourself waking up without your current job, right? Because
Hmm.
you've never done that up until this point, and you've gotten comfortable with what your job looks like, right? So when you go to your job, what problems to expect from your workplace, And it can be scary, especially if you're talking about going backwards in pay, right? So let's say you're going from $20 to $19 an hour, right? It's already like, okay, I've never made this. I'm used to this. And now I'm about to be in this new situation. And I don't even know what these people look like. I don't know what these people act like. I don't know what these people do. It's like, you're scared of change.
Yeah.
But in change, there is growth.
Yeah.
No seed stays a seed. Right?
Hmm.
If you're going to grow, you have to grow into something. An apple tree, an orange tree, a vineyard, something, right? To produce for other people. So letting go is part of the process. The seed has to not want to be a seed anymore, right? It has to let go of the idea of it is only a seed. And yes, it's hard because the seed is very comfortable being a seed. It knows exactly how to be a seed. Don't take no more work than what's already been done. But in order for it to be more than what it is, it has to be willing to let go of what it is.
Right. And I think we're getting at is that it's part of the process.
Part of the
That's
process.
part of the process is required. And is required for you to go through the process of all of it. And so, I mean, the first it's going to be, I mean, for some of us, it's embarrassment. You go through the feeling of embarrassment, regret, denial. You know what they call the 7 stages of
Anger. Yep.
you go through all of it. You go through this, and then, I mean, there's going to be a point where you could reach peace. But yeah, you're going to go through quite a bit, and I think it's okay. I think it's okay to wherever you're feeling, don't disregard it. Don't be like, well, man, like, I ain't acting, you know what I mean? Like, I shouldn't be acting like this. Well, that's your experience, and that's how you are, So what you are going through it is a human experience, but I'm not saying sit there. I mean, we've talked about in the video before, don't just sit where you're at, look for a solution. But just realize that feeling of anger, the feeling of resentment, whatever it is temporary. It is temporary, and there is a way to get out of it. But it's also going to require an even bigger leap of faith, and you do have the strength to do it. So, yeah, man, that's pretty good, bro.
I think it rolls over into the rebuild too, because if you get into, let's say you move from town A to town B, right? You love town A though, but you realize like, yo, if I'm gonna be more than what I am, I'm gonna have to let go of town A and go to town B, right? So you decide to make the move. You come to the realization, okay, I'm gonna let go. You release, cool. You go to town B. You now have to rebuild, right? You can focus on the fact of, I don't know anybody out here. I don't like the food out here. I don't like the way people act. Da 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 da. You can focus on all the negative components until you've been there so long that you're like, you know what? I'm gonna just make the best of what's here then.
Yep.
Or you can go into the situation originally and just make the best of what is there, right? So your complaining only wastes time and further prolongs your like depression or your unhappiness with your current with change at that point, right? And so it's not it's easy to go to a bottle or to drugs or to people, right, to get to get a feeling again, right? Because a lot of times when we do release, there's something inside of us that feels broken. There's an emotional attachment that's cut. And so we start going to go do things that give us these sensations, right? Trying to feel emotions again. And that's not necessarily the best idea. So I think the rebuild is one of the most important pieces to the process because that's where you lay the foundation for the person you're becoming. Right? So I think that if you go from town A to town B, okay, in town A you may have been Xavi, the greatest governor in the area, right? But in town B, okay, he might have to start all over. Right? You might have to start from secretary again. Right? Ground floor zero. But now knowing what you know, if you had to redo it, starting over from say a secretary position, working back up to a governor,
Yeah.
okay, how would you do that? Are there some
And
decisions that you made the first time that you wish you had been a little more careful about? Now, when
yeah.
go back and redo it, when you're rebuilding, you're relaying that foundation. So you're not gonna, you shouldn't make the same mistake twice.
Right. Yeah.
But I think that gets lost, and well, letting go of this is hard. Or I really miss town A, and town A was so great, and town A this, and town A that, and it's like, but you're in
Yeah.
town B now. Yeah.
Well, different terrain, man. A different environment. That's a big one. That's a big one that people do struggle with. Literally a change of environment, and letting go of what you used to have. You mentioned another situation of letting go of someone you once, were with, or someone who was your partner. Um, yeah, it really could be anything, man. Um, for me, so I'll bring up kind of a personal situation. Um, so I recently was called to my mother's house. And the reason I was called was because it was an emergency. And so growing up, emergencies were bad, obviously. But during those times that we had emergencies, I always felt the need, especially, little 10-year-old Xavi felt like he needed to be um, the adult, and I would do my best to kind of grow up and be, big brother. I was trying to be the man, right? I'm next up,
Exactly.
I'm the man, right?
Yeah.
And I was called, but all I was told on the phone was that it was an emergency. And I asked what was wrong. Like, what's wrong? What's wrong? It's an emergency. We need you here. Okay. So you can only imagine what my mind's going through, especially, like an emergency. I'm thinking emergency, so I'm driving and I'm doing my best to, control my driving, trying to, maintain my composure, not, basically make sure I get to the point of emergency as safe as possible and actually make it there. I'm driving, thinking, all right, let me just get there. Let me make sure I don't hit anything. Let me not get pulled over for speeding. I got to get there. So I get there, but I'm contemplating, thinking of the worst. I pull up to the house. I do a prayer, right? Because an emergency, when I was younger, an emergency was a legit emergency. Um, there were things that required
So I
prayer.
did that.
And I got there and I walked in the house and the emergency was so minute. It was like a matter of me getting an animal out of the house. And you would think that I would be, if I was thinking I would have been
Clearly.
happy, right? I would have been like, thank God it wasn't something worse. Thank God it wasn't this. I'm glad everyone was cool. And I was, but I had prepared for war, right? Like I prepared, shoot, like I gotta be there. I gotta be there for somebody. And yeah, I pulled up and the emergency was getting an animal out of the house. So I was hot, bro. Oh, I was hot. I was so mad, so frustrated with people. I was frustrated while I was there. It wasn't just like something, just a bump in the road. So that's whole time I'm furious, dude. I'm hot. I'm so mad because I just kept thinking of all the emergencies that I had growing up that that I didn't realize had such, that much of an effect on me. Like it really was weighing me down so much so that I was prepared for the absolute worst. You know what I mean? And granted, the communication could have been better, but I also, because I realized that I didn't let go of certain things that had happened in my life, I didn't handle that with a fresh mind. I handled that with a mind that was already in a headspace of you're losing. So I don't know if like, I mean, with think about it in sports, like when the team is losing, it's the fourth quarter and you're down by 3, you start noticing uh the tempo change in the team that's losing, right? They're trying to pass the ball, move the ball more, they're trying to get it down the court and they're trying to get a bucket. Um, that was my mindset. My mindset was I'm losing and I'm kind of like moving quickly, but when you're moving quickly, there's a lot more room for error. And I didn't even realize it until my mom had said, even my sister had said something like, wow, like they weren't thinking about it because they let it go. They weren't thinking about all the things that, we had to deal with growing up or, the emergencies we've dealt with because they already went through the healing process of letting it go. I still didn't do it. So then my reaction of being angry, they were surprised. They were like, what's going on? Like, what's wrong with you? And I told them why. I was like, you guys know what we've been through, this and that. Why would, you need to tell me when it's an emergency, I need to know what it is or kind of an idea before I show up here, guns blazing, ready to go. You know what I mean? So that was kind of, it was definitely a light shed on a dark space that I never knew I had. And so, yeah, man, I still have some things that I had to let go from my childhood, from growing up. And like I said, I've talked about it before. I did have an amazing childhood. My parents were loving. Our household was safe. But just like any other family, we've all been through stuff, So, yeah.
And I think you telling that story, it points out, bro, I've been telling people around me, your childhood was your reality, right? Whether it was great or whether it was horrible, that was your reality. So now that you're an adult, you see life through whatever reality you were given as a child. That don't make it right. Doesn't necessarily make it wrong. But if you don't understand how you view life based on your life experiences, you think that this is just the way life is.
Yeah.
Right. So like, for example, if there was somebody who grew up and they didn't have Christmas every year, they think that's a normal thing, right? Like that's their life. That's their reality. It's normal not to have Christmas, right? However, to somebody else who's had Christmas every year, that's not their normal. That's not their reality. So now they're looking at it as, well, why don't you celebrate Christmas every year? Or why don't you do this every year? Whatever.
Yeah.
In reality, there's no to say who's right, who's wrong. There are only two different perspectives on the same idea. However, when you get into stuff like emergencies and family trauma, you don't understand how traumatic some of those events are until you talk to other people who ain't never had them. Because it can get to a point in your life where it's normal. And so why would you let go? Like for some people, being a part of like shootouts, fights, stuff like that, that's normal every day in their life. So if you move them to an environment where they don't have to fight physically like that every day, it feels weird to them. Why? Because it's change. It's a part of your growth. It's part of your development. And so now you're noticing, wait, everybody don't fight every day when they get home from school? No, everybody don't do that. And so now it's like, well, I thought that's the way life was. And now you're trying to figure out how can I let go of every day when I go home, I need to fight, right?
Yeah.
Or every day when I get home, there's going to be a fight. No, there are some neighborhoods, that's not a thing. You don't have to go home to a fight.
You don't have to do more. Yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying? But as long as you think it's normal, it's hard for you to change that. And I've been in that position too, where you have problems you need to fix because there's stuff you need to let go, but you didn't even know it was a thing. You just thought that was your reality. So you really have to start asking questions about your reality. Is this everybody's reality or is this my reality? And there are some things that I can work on to improve my reality. And I think that's another thing is that when you do let go, you have to take responsibility that you put yourself in that position more than likely to start with. Right? And even if you didn't put yourself in that position, let it go, right? Release it. And when you rebuild, understand you may not have put yourself there, but take the lessons you learned from being in that position and now better yourself.
Yeah. it's not rebuild yourself in the same way. Like, all right,
Correct.
that happened. Back to it. You know what I mean? Like, no, it's like, okay, what triggered me? So that's what it is recognizing this is what triggered me. I need to know now that not every single time is going to be like that. You know what I mean? And it's not a matter of, oh, well, now if I get called and they tell me it's an emergency, I got to think, oh, it's fine. But it kind of broadened my scope. It was like, okay, you know what? We this is gonna be something that I'm gonna be okay with. You know what I mean? Like I whatever I have, how I am coming, I'm going to be okay. So let's not go in here thinking that, all assuming that I'm gonna have to be guns blazing. You know what I mean? But also, let's not go in here thinking like it's just you know how to moderate yourself at that point. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
I
more
think that's really
patient.
what it is. And then recognizing that those we talked about it. There's triggers. There's gonna be things that make you think of your ex. There's gonna be things that make you think of your past, make you think of, all these different things. But recognizing what the triggers are, you're more prone to handle them better. And that's the goal.
And not letting go only allows you to take that energy out on somebody who don't deserve it,
Yep.
right? And we do
That's
that a
huge.
lot,
Yeah.
where
It affects
it's
your
like,
relationships, dude.
correct, where somebody has come along and they're trying to help you because they can see that you are broken. Perhaps they've been there before and they're
Yeah.
trying to help you, but instead of you allowing them to help you, you shoot them down because you're like, well, you have these traits that that person had, and this is how that ended. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not the moral of the story here. You know, that's part of the character, but
Yeah.
that's not the plot. You know what I'm saying?
So you try
So
to validate what you did. Like, no, well, I did it in the past. This is what happened, so I had to be that way. No, you didn't.
correct. No, you
You didn't have to.
develop that behavior to protect yourself in that situation, but guess what? You're not in
Right.
that situation no more.
Yep.
So you can't keep doing that and then pointing the finger at everybody else because it's not everybody else, it's you.
It's reflective, man. This
And
is all this is a reflective process, man.
that's where you get into like people when people talk about like self-projecting, like projecting, oh, you're manipulative while they're manipulating you, right? The
Mhm.
self-projection. It's like, no, you see me as manipulative because that's what you do. Like,
Yeah.
so of course you're terrified of somebody manipulating you the way you manipulate other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it
I
all
like to
starts
think of
with
it. Go
unable to
ahead.
let go. Good, go ahead.
I say I like to think about it like legitimately, when we're talking about reflective, I like to think about it really like looking at yourself in the mirror. And a lot of people, let me stop saying a lot of people, me, myself, right? I'll look at myself in the mirror and say I'm about to go out for the day. I'll be looking at myself, I'm all right, I'm looking, checking everything. Okay, I look good. Or I'll be like, oh, I didn't get a haircut. Okay, let me put a hat on. You know what I mean? Or
Let me cover
was
it
we
up.
talking about I got a hat on, I need a haircut. So for when any of y'all say something, talking about take off the hat, it's not coming off until I get a haircut. But think about it. When you're looking at yourself in the mirror, you seem to see all the imperfections that you don't like, and you try to cover it, right? A lot of people do that. Now, a lot of people, they try to embrace their imperfections, which is what we should be doing, right? That's kind of what we should be doing with the same things with our life. There's stains in our life that you need to embrace.